Well, hello, everybody. This is Blair Nightingale here. I was just thinking, even as I said that, guys, I've said this a lot of times today. Hello, everybody. Blair Nightingale here because we've been online a lot today. We've been streaming and we're not done. We're not done because I'm here for Market Monday and I'm heading over to do webinars for Tradeway right after this. So lots of stuff coming at you. Of course, joining you here today on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know that your time is very important. In fact, you hear us preach that message all the time. Money is a renewable resource. Time is not. If you could use money to save time, you're using what is renewable to leverage what you're leveraging what is renewable to more efficiently, more effectively manage what is not renewable. And that gets us into what we're talking about tonight. Very simple. How to leverage your money. Okay, there are more than one way. There is more rather than one way to leverage your money. We're going to go over just a couple that I think are important tonight. Some that I'm going to tell you about, some that we can help you with. Want to give you something practical. Troy, I see you there. Troy's kicking us off tonight. If you're joining us and you want to say hi, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you. I was talking to Jeffrey Nance, one of the elite trading coaches at Tradeway, earlier today in our 5-day Faith and Finance Challenge, which kicked off today. It's our free 5-day Faith and Finance Challenge. We were talking. And he said, man, I got to tell you, I'm a people person. This Zoom stuff, it's an amazing technology. But I sure wish we were there with people. I'm used to being in the room with you guys when we do this stuff. I'm sure glad we've been able to spend the time together that we have. We've been able to talk about the things we've been able to talk about. But I wish you were here. I wish you were in the same room because that's how we used to do it at Tradeway. And we're going to get back to that at some point. But for now, what you can do right here, I always say, at least on my screen, you can comment. Troy is ahead of us. So, hey, Troy, thank you for posting that. He says hello to everybody. Susan, I see you there tagging some friends. If you got some friends you feel like, hey, they're going to want to see this, go ahead. You can just tag them right in the comments there. Of course, you can always send them the link when we're done. You can share the Facebook page with them because this will be recorded and posted as always. How to leverage your money. Well, first of all, what is leverage? What is leverage? And ultimately, it looks like I got to silence my phone here. Leverage is in essence, okay, when I use the force, when I manipulate the force of something smaller, I'm going to come at it this way, to do more, I leverage the energy of something smaller to affect something bigger. Okay, so really, what are we looking at in finances tonight? Well, I really want to hit this on two levels, okay? So let me just keep going with the example I just gave. If I don't have a lot of money, how can I leverage that? Is there a tool that can give the smaller amount of money that I may have, or even if I have a lot of capital, how can I risk less or use less and leverage it? Well, here's one of the great things about the stock market, okay? Ultimately, you and I don't necessarily have the capital, the capacity, or the desire to go and start one of these big growth companies. Okay, so the stock market, we talked about this before. The stock market gives us the ability to invest in some of the greatest companies in the world. Jeffrey says a lever. That's a great example. That's usually the picture that comes to mind first, right? A lever. We may have a big rock. I wish I had my whiteboard over here. We have a big rock. We maybe can't move that rock. Place a smaller rock by it. Put a steel rod, something pretty strong, depending on the size of what we're trying to move, and you actually may be able to leverage the smaller rock with the lever to roll a bigger rock, right? Just a picture. So, Jeffrey, you're absolutely right. I mean, that is typically the picture. I mean, we've got pulleys, we've got gears, we've got all kinds of examples of how we use mechanical leverage. And there are some physicists out there maybe, or some people who love that kind of stuff who have a much better definition of it in that capacity. But financial leverage is about knowing the right tools so that you can take smaller amounts and leverage and move bigger things for your advantage. Like I said, in the stock market, learning how to safely invest and navigate the stock market means that you and I can leverage Wall Street. We can leverage Wall Street. Listen, I'm not going to own Google. Jeffrey says I was a physics major. I love that so much. Jeffrey, you can chime in anytime you want on mechanical, leverage. Wall Street, getting back on track. Wall Street is a place that I can leverage big companies. I'm not gonna own Google, right? I'm not gonna have Google. I'm not gonna be an owner of Google. Okay, that ship has sailed for me, unfortunately. That's not gonna happen. However, I can trade Google. Okay, this is the first level that I'm gonna talk about. I'm gonna trade Google. Well, I get to get into a piece of that company without actually owning the company, without actually being in the company, right? I get to leverage all the other people on Wall Street for my benefit. If they are all doing something collectively, example, driving the price of the stock up, then I get to partake in that as well. Wealthy people understand leverage. They understand leverage. How can I use my money in a way that is, in essence, multiplies the power of my money, right? I can do investments outside of Wall Street, and there's some, we're not going to go into necessarily other investment vehicles tonight, but in Wall Street or on Wall Street, I get to actually leverage all the other traders and all the infrastructure that's already in place, okay? And that's one level. Troy says, Jeff, I'm the chemistry major. That's a one level. The next level up is, think about it this way, okay? Think about it this way. If you know how to trade options, okay, options give us another level of leverage, specifically, financially, more specifically, Wall Street, okay? Now, we've talked about options on here before. But options get their value, for those of us who are saying, not really sure what an option is, or I don't remember what an option is. Let me just give you a quick update. An option is something that you and I can buy, okay, when we are in our trading platform. An option is something that you and I can buy. It's not actually the stock, okay? It is connected to the stock. In fact, we call them derivatives. There are many different kinds of derivatives. Options contracts are a kind of derivative. Why do we call it that? Because they derive their value from the stock. So I can buy Apple stock, okay? But I could also buy an option on Apple stock. Now, what is an option? In simplicity, an option is a contract, okay? It's a contract. So think about a house. Okay, think about, you want to buy a house from me. Okay? And you are speculating that the price of the house, you're a real estate investor now. You're not looking to just live in this house. You are a real estate investor. You're looking to buy low, sell high. That's what you do if you buy stocks, right? So let's just say you're buying real estate. You want to buy real estate from me. You say, well, Blair's selling the house for $100,000 right now, but I have a belief that the price of this house is going to go up to $120,000 within a year. Let's just say, right? We're looking more at understanding the principle here than getting caught in the details. If the house is going to go up to $120,000, you could go, all right, well, I can go and I can buy the house. Okay? Well, that's going to cost you $100,000. Okay? So you could do that, right? You could get into the real estate market. But what if you said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy an option instead. Maybe you don't even have $100,000 to buy the house. So you think, well, I guess that means I can't get into the real estate market, at least not buying this house. But I like this house and it's in this neighborhood and I have strong reason to believe that this is the neighborhood. Man, it's going to have some development. It's going to have XYZ happen. The prices are going to go up. This is where I want to invest. Well, what can I do? Well, okay. What if I said, hey, listen, I will offer you a deal, okay? It gives you the right, but not the obligation to buy the house at a certain price within a certain amount of time. So I say to you, Nancy's out there saying hello. I say to Nancy, okay, Nancy, I'll sell you a contract that says if you buy the house within the next 12 months, let's just keep the numbers easy, 1 year, then you can buy the house at $100,000. You say, well, that's what it costs right now. That's true. But if the price changes, $100,000. But I'm going to charge you a premium. Charge you maybe about 15%, right? I'm going to charge you about 15% for that contract. It's $100,000. So it's going to cost you, right? It's going to cost you 15 grand, but it's not going to cost you 100. Okay. So we're just using easy numbers. So 15% approximately is what you pay me for that contract. Now the house ends up going up to $130,000. You were right. In fact, it turned out that you were more right than you thought you were going to be. Okay. The house goes up to $130,000. What is the contract in your hand now worth? Because remember, if you exercise that, if you use that option on the real estate or on the house, then you're able to buy it at $100,000. You say, well, Blair, the house didn't you just say it was worth 130 now? That's true. But I entered into an agreement. Now you paid me for that agreement, but I entered into that agreement. So I'm going to keep that money. Troy, I see your comment. I'm going to keep that money, but you're going to have the opportunity to exercise that option. Buy the house at $100,000 and then flip it for what? 130, pocketing $30,000 minus the 15 you paid for the option. Now I'm just making up numbers here to give us the idea, okay? But that is how you could do that. You say, well, wait a second. There's a problem with that though, because what if I don't have the $100,000 to buy the house? Now you just told me I got to pay 15 for the option and I got to buy the house. How does that help me? How is that leverage? Well, let's back up a second. What if you have the contract, Nancy has the contract, and Nancy says, all right, well, wait a second. The house is at 130. That means the owner of this contract is able to flip the house for a $30,000 profit. So the contract now is valuable. I don't even need to buy the house. The contract has gone up. And I didn't have to pay $100,000. I had to pay a small percentage in order to get into the game, if you will. And now what I'm going to do, instead of exercising that contract with Blair, Nancy says, I'm just going to sell the contract to somebody else who wants it. Now, get back to the stock market. Well, who would buy that contract? Well, we've got a wonderful thing called a market maker in the stock market. Remember I said we're going to leverage Wall Street, the infrastructure and the companies, the big boys, the infrastructure and the companies. Well, the infrastructure means there's always somebody there buying and selling. So you can sell that contract. You can sell that contract back. So let's take it back to the stock market. Leverage. You are able to, let's go back to Google. I said Google. You're able to go, what is Google right now? Somebody tell me, what's Google per share right now? Share price. $2,064 for the Class C shares of Google. Okay, so just over $2,000 for a share of Google. So you say, well, I'm not going to be trading any Google anytime soon for the most part. And even other stocks, let's see, here's some other popular ones. Apple went down today. Apple's 126 bucks. Apple had a split recently, so Apple's not too bad. Even Netflix, $533, something like that. We're looking at these great growth companies. We say, well, I may not have the capital to trade them, or I can buy the stock, but I can't buy as many shares as I want to buy of the stock. So what could I do? Well, one thing you could do based on leverage is you could buy options. Okay. Now I'm just giving you a window into how this is a tool today for leverage. I'm not necessarily saying that we're ready to go out and buy some options today. There's a lot of details to options we have to understand because remember I said there's a contract. We need to understand how the terms of those contracts affect us and how we can protect ourselves so that it works in our advantage and not to our disadvantage. Okay. But the leverage we get means, hey, wait a second. I've only got X amount of money in my account, not a whole lot of money in my account. I could go out and I could buy shares, but I can't buy that many shares. What if I knew how to trade options? What if I knew how to trade options? I could actually use the contract that I just described to actually leverage my money and get into the market in some parts of the market that I wouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't be able to afford. Right? I wouldn't be able to get in on that kind of trading. But because I'm going, well, I can get into these companies for approximately 10 to 15%. That depends on the terms of that contract. Like I said, there are some moving pieces. But generally speaking, in that ballpark is what I look for. It's what we look for here at Tradeway. So you say, well, wait a second. I could then potentially trade Netflix and only put in a fraction of the investment. And the potential increase and potential decrease, got to say both sides, is greater because of the leverage. So smaller amount of capital, still able to do bigger things. That's the power of leverage. Finding ways to leverage your money can be very, very helpful. I know a lot of traders, they have the capital to trade stocks. They continue to almost exclusively, not always, but almost exclusively trade options. Trade options. Why? Because the leverage. Okay, there are other benefits to options, a lot of flexibility, but but options, one of the benefits we get, one of the huge benefits we get is being able to financially leverage. Now, there are a lot of different ways to financially leverage. This is Market Monday. I want to give you something practical on that. So we've talked about options. We teach options extensively. I know we've got some students on here right now who are learning and have learned or actively trading in options as well. So that is one thing we can do. So if you're out there and you're saying, let's say, I'd love to get into the real estate market, in this case, the stock market, but I just don't have the capital. Well, I'm going to say a couple of things about that. Number one, someone leveraged a bricklayer to build that wall behind you. A long, long time ago, Jeffrey. One of the things I'm going to say is you ultimately, using this leverage, learning to trade options is one way to do this. Another way that I feel like there's two thoughts I want to get out and I'm skipping ahead. So let me just back up a second. Ultimately, the more I learn from people who understand how to manage resources really well, they understand how to leverage money really well. And when it comes to trading, this is one of the ways that we can do it. Myron Golden, I feel like I've been quoting him a lot lately. This particular quote, he says, the goal is to go further, faster with less work. Harder, longer is not necessarily better, right? I've had that sort of blue collar mindset most of my life. And I've been around Tradeway even for a while. And even it was last year I caught myself getting this idea, harder, longer hours and work is better. No, that's not true. Fruitfulness is the goal. Fruitfulness is the goal. And leverage can help us get to fruitfulness further, faster with less work. That's the power of leverage. And like I said, there are many different kinds of leverage. Options is one of those kinds of leverage. Okay. Now, I do want to say this. If we've got a smaller amount of capital, we can practice with just about any amount, especially since we can paper trade. So I know we've talked about that on previous weeks. I don't want to skip over that. Listen, we can practice trading virtually, so we don't need to worry about that. But when we're looking to really make an impact on our financial lives and really get going, options is certainly one of the things here at Tradeway we look at pretty extensively. That said, now I'm going to say one more thing today. Another kind of leverage. I was in the 5-day challenge earlier today talking to everybody who was in there, and I talked about the keys to breakthrough today. And one of the things that is, so many of the keys in there are about leverage, really. One of them in particular, in fact, Jeffrey, I believe you mentioned this last week, is getting a mentor. Get a mentor. That is leverage. What are you doing? You're leveraging someone else's experience. David Mitchell has 30 plus years of trading and investing experience. Okay. So somebody who's been around Tradeway for a long time learns from him. And then I learned from them. And I learned from them in a fraction of the time that it took David to learn, that it took the next in line to learn. I interviewed Jeffrey Nance. He's been at Tradeway for 10 years. He's been here longer than I have. I learned a lot from him. He had to earn that along the way. I got it immediately. That's inheritance, really, isn't it? He earned it. I got it. Now, what I need to do is run my race, and then hopefully other people will receive from what I've done. And of course, we get to do that here on some level as well. So what am I saying? Another way we can financially leverage. We've got a course coming up. I'm going to put the link in here. David Mitchell and Myron Golden, who I just quoted moments ago, are going to be doing a special event. Now, we advertised this event. We had to make a last minute schedule change. Unfortunately, it's all worked out. It's happening in March. So we're right around the corner. It's going to be in mid-March. I'll pop the dates in there. It's going to be an amazing event. I've looked at the tickets. This is not a high ticket event in terms of what it's going to cost us to join, but they are going to pack it out. There is going to be a lot of value. Getting time with David Mitchell is extremely valuable, and it is a high form of leverage. Myron Golden, if you guys are on Clubhouse, I talked a little bit about Clubhouse yesterday. Myron Golden is a mentor to millionaires. Myron has a program where it's $1 million to be in that course. It's a one-on-one coaching program with him. It's $1 million. Okay. So we're talking about people who understand how to manage and leverage money. Wouldn't that be something that would be really helpful for us to leverage, to get some face time, to get some question and answer time? That is something that I think, the scripture talks about, and we've said this at Tradeway for years. We've just been foundational with this scripture that knowledge is better than gold. Knowledge is better than gold. We want to give you knowledge and show you how to practically apply. That's what's going to happen at this upcoming event. This is a level up event, and I'm going to pop the link in there. And you can leverage your time, a small time investment for you and I haven't seen this event yet. It's the first time they've done it. A small investment for you and I could mean a huge return on investment in knowledge for the future. So I'm going to pop that in there. Financial leverage. Why go through all the pains and heartaches of trying to do something on your own when you can learn from people who've already gone through? And honestly, David will candidly tell stories of the mistakes he made. And that's where so many of the rules of our trading system come from, is the mistakes that were made. So I'm not happy he made those mistakes, but I'm happy I can learn from him so I don't have to make them too. And of course, that's the beauty of getting a mentor. One of the keys to breakthrough and leverage is the reason that is so good. At least it is one of the reasons that is so fantastic about having mentors. So we are making mentors available to you guys. And so I'm going to pop that link in there. Jeffrey says early bird ends March 7th. I get the feeling you're already signed up and ready to roll there, Jeffrey. So that's awesome. There is, as Jeffrey said, there is an early bird price. You will see that on there. So it is better to get in earlier. Now, we do online events, and you might think, well, when there's an online event, you say, well, what do you mean you're almost full? It's an online event. Well, actually, there are levels of access. Not levels of access. There's a capacity on some of our Zoom sessions. You can only have so many. Okay, so we are usually extremely, it is very popular when David and Myron are together. So there is an early bird on there, so you want to get in early and save yourself some money on it, but it's a worthy investment. Okay, so you can do that. Another thing I'll post, if you guys weren't on the 5-day challenge today, and some of you guys really want to join in with that, I will post that there just so that you know how to get into that as well. Okay, guys, so I'll post that on there, and you will be able to join with that. That is a free challenge. You can join me for the rest of the week. I'm going to just do my best, do everything I can, as I always say on here. Jeffrey knows. I want to see you win. I do. I want to see you advance. So I'm coming on every day this week. We're doing interviews and teaching sessions just to really help you get momentum and breakthrough this year as we start into the new year and help you guys reach a new level, define what it is that you want to see happen this year, and partner with you to do that. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, as always, go ahead, pop them in the comments. It's over here. I always think it's over here. It's over here. You can pop those in there, and I'll be happy to answer those for you as well. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, jump into our webinars tonight. We've got webinars for all of our students tonight. So we're going to do that. And then I will be back on Thursday. Jeffrey says, I went to the Health, Wealth, and Mind Mastery last year, and it was great. And that was Christy Code Red. That was David Mitchell. That was Myron Golden. If you haven't heard Myron, you got to just come and hear one time. I don't think you'll ever want to just hear him just one time. But if you haven't heard Myron, you ought to come and just hear him one time, because he's a fantastic communicator. You're going to get motivated. You're going to get inspired. You're going to get biblically saturated. And he's going to help you get breakthrough. And that's what we're all about doing. So you can join us on there. Thanks so much, everybody, for commenting. I'm going to sign off, and we will see you guys next time.